You're broke. No one believes in you. You've got a goal that feels impossible, and you're waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right resources. But here's the truth. Sun Tzu conquered entire kingdoms with soldiers who had nothing. And today you're going to learn how he did it. Because what worked 2,500 years ago still works now. Let me ask you something. What if I told you that every major success story you admire started with less than you have right now? No capital, no network, no credentials, just hunger and strategy. Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War during the spring and autumn period of ancient China, a time of chaos, a time when small states fought giant empires and lost every single time, except when they had Sun Tzu. Because Sun Tzu understood something most people still don't. Resources don't win wars, resourcefulness does. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to weaponize that. Now, I'm not going to tell you some feel-good nonsense. I'm not going to say just believe in yourself and hope it sticks. I'm going to show you the exact framework that turned farmers into soldiers, soldiers into generals, and generals into legends. This is not theory. This is battlefield-tested wisdom, used by emperors, CEOs, athletes, artists, anyone who's ever built something from nothing. And here's the best part. You don't need permission to use it. You don't need a degree. You don't need a trust fund. You just need to understand 5 principles, 5 shifts in how you see the game, and everything changes. So let's begin. Sun Tzu said, "Know the terrain, and you cannot be defeated." Most people misunderstand this. They think it means study the battlefield. But Sun Tzu meant something deeper. He meant, know the reality you're operating in. Not the fantasy, not the version you wish existed. The actual terrain. Let me give you an example. You want to start a business, but you have no money. The fantasy terrain says, I need investors. I need a loan. I need capital. The real terrain says, I need one customer, just one, who will pay me for solving their problem. See the difference? The fantasy terrain paralyzes you. The real terrain activates you. Sun Tzu's armies didn't wait for perfect conditions. They assessed what they actually had, and then they moved. Here's what this looks like in your life. Stop asking, what do I need? Start asking, what do I have access to right now? A phone? That's a broadcasting studio. A skill? That's a service business. A story? That's a brand. The terrain isn't missing resources. The terrain is you not seeing what's already there. Sun Tzu's generals would walk the land before every battle. They'd study the hills, the rivers, the shadows. They'd find advantages no one else saw. You need to do the same. Walk your terrain. What's the one thing you can do today with what you have today? That's your first move. And that move changes everything. Principle 2, the invisible army. Here's where it gets interesting. Sun Tzu had a concept called winning without fighting. Sounds impossible, right? But he did it over and over again. How? He built an invisible army, not soldiers, perception. He made his enemies believe he had more than he did. He used spies, rumors, misdirection. He'd light 1,000 campfires to make his force look massive. He'd march troops in circles to seem endless. He won before the battle even started, because the enemy surrendered to an illusion. Now here's how you use this. You don't need a massive following. You need strategic visibility. You don't need a huge team. You need leverage. Let me break this down. Right now, someone with 500 engaged followers can out-earn someone with 50,000 passive ones. Why? Because engagement is your invisible army. Every comment, every share, every message. That's a soldier fighting for your cause. Sun Tzu didn't need the biggest army. He needed the most feared one. You don't need the most resources. You need the most momentum. And momentum is built through perception. Post consistently. Show up with value. Let people feel your presence. Even if you're just getting started. Even if you're building in the dark. The world doesn't need to know you're small. They just need to know you're real and that you're moving. Sun Tzu once said, all warfare is based on deception, not lying. Deception, making your position seem stronger than it is. So here's your assignment. Act like the person you're becoming. Not fake it, embody it. Speak with the authority of someone who's already won. Because confidence isn't arrogance. Confidence is clarity, and clarity is your invisible army. Principle 3. Speed over strength. Sun Tzu was obsessed with speed. He said, "Speed is the essence of war." Why? Because speed creates opportunities that strength cannot. A small, fast army could strike before a large, slow one even knew what happened. They'd capture resources, cut supply lines, disappear before reinforcements arrived. Speed was the equalizer, and it still is. Right now you're probably overthinking. You're waiting to have it all figured out, waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect product, the perfect moment. But while you wait, someone else is moving. They're not smarter than you, they're just faster. And in the game of goals, execution beats preparation every single time. Here's the truth. You will never feel ready, never. Not when you start, not when you scale, not when you succeed. Readiness is a myth. Movement is the method. Sun Tzu's armies didn't train for years before battle. They trained during battle. They learned by doing, by failing, by adapting in real time. You need to do the same. Launch the thing, post the content, send the message, make the offer, even if it's not perfect, especially if it's not perfect, because speed gives you data, and data gives you direction. Slow planning gives you nothing. Principle 4, the weakness strategy. This one is brutal and brilliant. Sun Tzu said, "Attack where they are unprepared. Appear where you are not expected." Translation: stop trying to compete where everyone else is fighting. Find the gap, the overlooked space, the weakness in the market, and dominate it. Let me give you a modern example. Everyone wants to be a fitness influencer. The space is saturated. Thousands of people posting workout routines, meal prep, transformation photos, all competing for the same audience. But then someone shows up and says, "Fitness for people who hate the gym." Boom. That's a weakness strategy. They're not fighting in the crowded center. They're attacking the undefended edge. And they win, because they're the only one there. Sun Tzu's armies never attacked fortified castles head-on. That's suicide. They found the unguarded path, the weak supply line, the exhausted flank, and they struck there. You need to do the same. Stop trying to outwork the competition. Outthink them. Ask yourself, where is everyone looking? Now look somewhere else. Where is everyone talking? Now talk to someone else. What does everyone assume? Now challenge it. The gap is where you win, not the center. Here's a personal example. I didn't try to become the best in a massive niche. I became the only one in a micro niche, and that made all the difference. Because when you're the only option, you're the best option. Sun Tzu understood this deeply. He said, "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity." Everyone's fighting in the obvious places. That chaos, that's your cover. While they fight each other, you slip past and claim the territory no one's defending. So stop asking, "How do I beat them?" Start asking, "Where are they not looking?" That's your move. Principle 5, victory before battle. Here's the final principle, and it's the most important. Sun Tzu said, "Victorious warriors win first, and then go to war." Read that again. They win first, before the battle even starts. How? Preparation, positioning, psychology. They don't hope to win. They engineer the win in advance, and then they just execute. Most people do the opposite. They jump into the battle unprepared. No strategy, no positioning, just effort and hope. And they lose, not because they're weak, but because they never set themselves up to win. Here's what this looks like for you. Before you launch, build the audience. Before you sell, create the trust. Before you ask, give value. You don't start the war and then figure out how to win. You win first, then you fight. Let me make this concrete. You want to launch a product? Don't just launch it and hope people buy. Spend 30 days talking to your audience, understanding their pain, building anticipation, pre-selling the idea. By the time you launch, the victory is already yours. You're just collecting it. Sun Tzu's armies would spend weeks, sometimes months, setting up the conditions for victory. They'd weaken the enemy's morale, sabotage their supplies, turned their allies. By the time the battle happened, it was over in minutes, because the real battle was already won. This is the difference between amateurs and masters. Amateurs rely on effort in the moment. Masters rely on preparation before the moment. So here's your question. What can you do now that makes success inevitable later? Build the skill, build the network, build the reputation, do the invisible work, the work no one sees, the work that doesn't get applause, because that's the work that wins wars. Sun Tzu said, "The general who wins makes many calculations before the battle." Calculations, not wishes, not hopes, cold, clear strategy. And that's what you need. A plan, a process, a system that makes your goal, not a dream, but a foregone conclusion. Here's the thing. Sun Tzu's wisdom has survived 2,500 years. Empires have risen and fallen. Technologies have transformed. But the principles? Still true, still powerful, still waiting for someone like you to pick them up and use them. So here's my challenge. Choose one principle, just one, and apply it in the next 24 hours. Know your terrain? List what you actually have right now. Build your invisible army? Post something today. Speed over strength? Launch the imperfect version. Weakness strategy? Find the gap no one's filling. Victory before battle. Do the prep work. One principle, one action. And watch what happens. Because goals aren't conquered with resources. They're conquered with strategy. And you just learned from the greatest strategist who ever lived. Now go, build your kingdom with exactly what you have, starting now. If this shifted something in you, if you feel more powerful than when you started, then do me a favor. Subscribe, because this is just the beginning. We're going deep into ancient wisdom, modern application, real transformation. And I want you here for all of it. Drop a comment below. Tell me which principle hit hardest. I read every single one, and I'll see you in the next one. Now go conquer.